I'm back. All right. So, who's ready to have a panel? Yeah. Woo. Exactly. All right. If we can all like stretch it out, jump up and down or something. No, I'm just kidding. All right. We'll just get started. Life's good. Okay. So, just without further ado, I just want to bring up our two panelists tonight. Very firstly and foremost, Julie Mann from Optimizely. Ooh, yeah, sorry, a little do-si-do there. And then obviously the infamous Scott Leese. Round of applause for our panel.
I never get put before Scott Leese, so I will.
Oh my God, I'm do-si-doing now.
That.
You guys find.
Just trying to figure out why I'm infamous.
Yeah, well, yes. We were Burgers Beer and B2B Sales, but then Scott is coming, so it's Burger Tequila, B2B Sales. Anyway, we'll just put this down over here for you, Scott. And got you.
Appreciate that.
All right. If I kick that. Don't kick that, Julie. Okay, so a little bit about tonight. We have a big discussion going on in the sales world for us leadership folk, which actually poses a question before we even get started here. Raise of a hand if you are a sales leader. Okay, good chunk. Raise of a hand if you are an individual contributor on a team. Okay, some of those. Raise of a hand if you are neither of those things. Okay, a couple. And then raise a hand if you don't know what you are. Yes, okay, a few of those too. Fantastic. All right, so real quick, my name is Bryan. I lead the sales development team at Aircall, which is a cloud-based phone system, if none of you paid attention to the last 10 minutes. We're based in New York and Paris. We have a ton of fun, and we've scaled the team within a very short amount of time to 50 individuals on an SDR front. So that's crazy amount of growth in a very short amount of time. But to you guys, how about an introduction and tell them about you and where you're from?
Cool. I'm Julie Mann. I am a true native Austinite, like born and raised here. Took a little detour, but came back. I started my sales career here in Austin at HomeAway and was an inside sales rep there. Very skeptical if that's what I wanted to be doing, but ended up really loving it and got promoted there to account executive and then circled back and managed the team that I had started on. And then after that, went over to Optimizely. First went to Spreadfast, I should say, and worked there for 2 years and had an SDR team there. That was awesome. Shout out to Sarah Linneman. She's over there. She was one of my rockstar SDRs that then became a manager. You guys should get to know her. And then now we both work at Optimizely. I've been there for about a year. And I have a team of 20-ish SDRs globally. So I manage the managers of those teams. We've got about 12 in the Austin office and about 6 in Amsterdam and a couple of little stragglers in Sydney and San Francisco.
My name's Scott. I am so old that I started in sales before SDRs was ever even a thing.
What year was that, Scott? I'm just kidding. Totally kidding.
I'll tell you what year it was. It was 2004.
Oh, okay.
I remember. I'm not that old. I still have some memory left. I've been building and scaling sales teams all across the country for the better part of the last 2 decades. It was about 16 years, I think, this summer. I've been an operator as a VP of sales 6 times. 5 times I've taken a company from 0 to 25 million ARR and north of 9-figure valuations in under 3 years. So this sprint from 0 to 100, so to speak, I've spent my whole career playing in that space. A couple years ago, I wrote a book called Addicted to the Process that was geared towards people who are just getting into sales for the first time. Did anybody read that book in the room? Hey, there's a couple of you. And then I started my own sales conference about 1.5 years ago called Surf and Sales. It's a micro sales conference. It is the antithesis of Dreamforce. I have no interest in hanging out with 100,000 people trying to pitch me shit. No offense to people who are just trying to pitch shit. That's just not my thing. So I take 20 people a couple times a year to Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Mexico, places like that, and do sales training and leadership training. I also have been running my own consulting business for a few years, and I went full-time in that business in October. So I work with I don't even know how many companies at this point in time, a dozen or two, somewhere between 12 and 20.
Zendesk can help you with this.
Yeah. Funny story. The irony is, like, when I first started in sales, there was no such thing as all these sales tools whatsoever. I go through 16 years of building all these companies and using all these sales tools, and now I work on my own and I use nothing. And so everyone wants to sell to me again and thinks I'm a hypocrite. I'm like, So anyway, so that's what I do. I'm a strategic advisor to a lot of companies around the globe. I've had teams of 200 under one roof. I've had teams of 350 distributed across 4 offices around the country. I've worked internationally as well as domestically, of course, and I've been in Austin for about 9 years now, but originally from Chico, California, and spent a lot of my time. You know Chico? All right. There's another one that said yes. How about that? Fun fact, anywhere you go in the world, somebody knows about Chico, California. I don't know how it's possible. It's a tiny little town, but anyway, I'm Scott.
Welcome, Scott. Welcome, Julie. Awesome. Okay. So the way we're going to do this tonight is not panel style. We're going to do this kind of fireside chat style because the 3 of us, I think, all have very different perspectives, or maybe same perspectives. I don't know. I guess we'll find out on the topic. But we have something to say, so that's cool. Before we get into that, though, I know that there's someone in my marketing team that's eyeing me down to tackle me because I forgot to mention something. So I need to mention it. If you guys like coffee and you like Starbucks of the variety of coffee, there will be a survey link that comes out to your email at the end of this, and we'd love for you to fill it out. And if you do, we'll send you a $5 gift card for your Starbucks, which is about half of your cup of coffee. So we'd love to get you to come and give us some feedback as to how we did. Cool. So the whole topic. Sales development representative, is it a stepping stone or is it a career path? There's been a lot of buzz on LinkedIn recently about career pathing this. And then there's also the age-old mentality of what is a sales development supposed to be and what does it traditionally have been. For those of you who don't know, sales dev started at the dawn of the dinosaurs. No, it started roughly 20 years ago. Anna Caselli, Aaron Ross's predictable revenue, and they built out this whole idea that you could automate the pre-sale. And you can, in essence, speed up your whole sales process. And today, this world is so different from then. So, to kick us off, topic-wise, I don't care who wants to jump in, but I'd love to hear, actually, Julie, let's just start with you. We'll talk about your team. What's the current expectation of career path on your team? And go from there. Yeah,
so currently, about 18 months is the time that we recommend in the seat. I think we have extended that some and are hoping to extend that some with some different leveling on our team. So more specifically, we've got 3 levels of SDRs. You start in as a level 1, and I will say, I think we made a mistake when we first did this because we made it based on title and kind of territory, which is right, but we also should have added a performance kind of merit component, and so we're retooling it. But the 3 levels are really, more entry level, somebody who's a little bit more experienced, can really crush it in the enterprise space, and then the 3rd level is pretty unique, is really strategic accounts. So you're working with, say, 3 account executives that have maybe 8 accounts each. So we're talking the Nikes, the Visas, the NBC Universals, the big accounts, and your goal is customer expansion there. And I think that specifically is one of those roles in our company that people are really aspiring to get to that helps us extend kind of the life.
Yeah, I think that's funny too, because of all the times that I've been on one of these teams, I think you said retooling, but I feel like that's what we do on a daily basis, just kind of reinvent it over and over and over again. Scott, you've seen a number of these teams get started. Are they similar in setup and style?
I think they're pretty similar in setup and style. I don't agree with it, though. I think that 18 months is way too long. I can't imagine any SDR in this room would be comfortable being in their particular role for 18 months without having the chance to move up and do something else. I just don't believe that an SDR got into sales in order to do everything except close a fucking deal. And so you've, in my opinion, got to provide a path to them to move up and learn those skills and start putting those into practice sooner than that, or you risk rep churn and movement and discontent on your floor. And that exists right now, not just because of the pay gap and differential. I think it just exists because, like, I didn't get into this field to do part of the fucking job. I got into the field to do the whole goddamn thing. So you want me to be there for 18 to 24 months? No, I'm not going to do it. That's just my take.
So just really quickly, because we like to kind of go back and forth and banter here.
And I disagree all the time.
This won't be our first. But what I will say is here's the deal. If you are a sales leader and you want somebody to stay in the role for 18 months and you're not going to add these development opportunities that are super crucial to somebody being successful in the sales cycle, like, totally agree. Terrible move. Don't ever do it. There's not a lot of value. The goal is not for, as a company and a leadership team, us to squeeze as much value out of a person as we can and selfishly bottle that up for the business.
Might not be your goal, but
might be yours. We'll hear your point of view next. Yeah. But that's not my goal. My goal is value in and value out. Like, my job is to really develop and coach people so that they're taking on more and more responsibilities. And by the time they're in the strategic role, they are already doing, most of the closing functions and have more autonomy in those positions. And, I'll give you a real example. So we had a badass in the company. I mean, like, this dude had a legacy that within Optimizely before I came in, that was just like, who is this dude? I got to meet this guy, and he's going to be on my team? Okay. Where he brought in all of the big companies that Optimizely now works with: Disney, eBay, PayPal, Nike, like the biggest deals that support our company and make us a healthy company. So he had this huge reputation as this strategic account, or SDR. And so, with that, we nurtured that. We said, hey, you want to be an AE? You want us to create this really cool leadership role for you specifically, where now you are mentoring and helping other people on our team be as awesome as you are and fulfill something in their career path, help them fill up some of the skill sets that will help them be successful along the way. And we created a role for him. And he now is our content and campaign manager for strategic initiatives. And he's also just a really great coach for the team. So I think as long as you are willing to provide the value to humans and not view them as just a resource for you, there is a win-win in both situations, and people want to stay along.
Can I answer?
Of course you can.
Do this all night.
Yeah. We're going to kick you off the stage.
Don't worry about it. I'm going to chew you apart in a minute. It's fine.
I think that's a really unique situation that a lot of people in the audience would love to have, but don't relate to. I'd be very curious how much that SDR was getting paid by bringing in those large accounts. If you want me to stay in that SDR role for beyond 18 months, but you're paying me $250K because I'm closing $1 million plus deals with Disney, you just extended your runway. I'll do that, sure. Because yes, you're teaching me things and providing me value, but you're also fucking paying me. Yeah. And most SDRs are getting paid 100-ish capped. Everybody will tell you that's not capped, but you're capped at 100 to 120K. That's just fact, in my opinion. But if you have the opportunity to do what Julie is talking about and work some of these huge accounts and you're getting rewarded for that, then it makes a lot more sense to me that you might be less eager to move out of that role and or feel like you're being treated appropriately. Because yes, you're giving me the opportunity to work these big strategic accounts. Yes, you're teaching me little things about how to work an account, how to sort it all out and navigate the ins and outs of a business. Maybe I'm participating in some of the closing, I'm auditing some of these calls. Oh, and by the way, I'm making $250,000. That's a different story. And is there an SDR here who's making $250,000?
I've only heard of one. I've actually only heard of one. In your current
role, not that you will one day. Not a single person, right? And, I don't know how much that person was getting paid. Were they getting paid that much? I don't know.
The dude's not making $250,000, let's be real. But what I will say is
And now he's not in the role anymore.
What I will say is that he was in the role for almost 2 years. He was rewarded he got promoted every single 6 months with a pretty significant increase. And then he's doubled his paycheck by, being in the position that he is today and working towards even more promotion. Like he's somebody, if you're going to provide value, I'm going to make sure you get rewarded for it. Again, not everybody is like that, but I view people as humans that I want to help develop and grow, and like if you provide value, you should get rewarded for that. I want to do the same.
There's a perception is reality thing going on though, right? Like we have created this environment where the perception of an SDR is that they are the entry-level role that enters an org. They are the beginning. They are meant to, somehow go through a grueling task of a time period that we pre-prescribe them when they first come on. And we say, you know what, look, you have this time by 15, 18 months, we're going to get you out of this role and get you on to the next thing. But what we're doing in a way is in some ways we're cannibalizing ourselves, and I'll put this out there. Bear with me. I know you have a thought on this, Scott. But first off, if I think about how many different tasks an SDR has to do today, right? They have to master the cold call, the qualification, the entry-level discovery. They have to know the social sell. They have to write an email. They have to create cadences and sequences. They have to understand the depths of the deal, understand the nuances of decision makers and influencers, and the whole gamut of information they have to go down. And that's like a crazy hard job today. It's not the days of old. You got a phone book, which is the days I got started. I was a phone book sales rep before I ever got into SaaS, right? And I would literally pull up plumbers and go down the numbers one by one. That's not the day anymore. We don't do that. We have to be strategic. We're trying to help people buy, and the buying persona has changed. And I think that the art of opening that door has changed so much. And that if that's the case, then why is it that, in my opinion, an AE role, having done it and have watched people do it and groom people to do it, is just as redundant. It's the exact same redundancy that we're doing on the entry level. So if we were to treat them as equals, why aren't we paying them more? Why aren't we career pathing them up? Is my question. Is like, why, if it's such an art today, and how, perhaps, do we change that conversation? At least from my perspective. I mean, I'll go on one other tangent here, too, for thought. Because when we don't, we promote our top players into the next role. We hire new people. We keep the middle. And you always have a sales dev team that operates between 80 to 100% of goal, but never above, because that's just not how the model's built.
Well, we actually do the same thing with AEs, because we end up promoting some of the AEs into leadership roles, and then we do the same thing with sales managers and promote them into director roles, and then you do the same thing with VPs. So it's a whole system. This is a systemic problem. Why do we have it teed up that way? I'll tell you a little story. I played sports my whole life. I played college soccer. I played professional soccer overseas. I played defense. Who gets paid more, you think, as a professional soccer player, a defender or a forward who scores the goal? A forward. It says we as a society value the person who's closing the deal more. You play football, you're a quarterback, you get paid the most. Who protects the quarterback? The offensive lineman. You know who the smartest person on the football field is? Anybody? You're shocked to know this? The offensive linemen have a higher IQ than anybody on the football field. They have the hardest job. They don't get the glory. We're just set up that way as a society, right? And so we're not just trying to rage against this one thing. There's all other aspects of life that are teed up like this, and that makes it incredibly difficult and incredibly hard. I will say, in my opinion, you're completely right about the landscape of the SDR, being totally different now than it was before. I'll go on record right now. The SDR role is harder than the AE role.
Someone write that down. He just said it.
1000%.
You want to know why? Because no fucking AE wants to prospect. That's all you need to know. They don't want to do all that shit anymore. They just want to grab the ball when you're already in the red zone and go home and score. That's it. That's all you need to know. The SDR role is way harder than being an AE, which is why everybody wants to get out of the SDR role and go be the AE, because you got an easier job. You just run demos with people, and then you get paid way more. So why wouldn't you want to move up? So until we recognize that and change that, and how we treat people and how we compensate people, we're going to be in this kind of predicament, in my opinion.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, it's an overhaul. It's an overhaul in the whole process and the career pathing.
I think the other component too that you have to factor in is that mostly right now, with that sort of vision in mind, all of the SDR team, the new people that move into an SDR role are typically on job number 1 to 3. Right. That's typically their first sort of entryway into some, professional new endeavor. And it's unrealistic to believe that when somebody walks in, I'm 1,000% going to be an AE or be in this role or that role. Like, we as leaders have a responsibility to spend time with people to understand what their skills are, what they want to do, let them figure out their dreams and goals and aspirations and point them in the right directions. Most of the time, 75% of the time, it's probably an AE. Sometimes it's a CSM. Sometimes it's get the hell out of here. This isn't for me. And that's cool too, because we'll figure that out. But when you add that component, we are sort of in that world where it's an ever-changing environment. And so instead of trying to fight it, you got to have really badass training programs that deliver efficiently. And you have to have some processes built in so that you have a playbook for success in that landscape.
I think that's a really good transition. Real quick, SDRs in the room, raise your hand. Cool. How many of you, keep your hands raised, how many of you decided that when you were going through school, you're like, oh my God, you know what I want to do in life? I want to be a sales development representative.
0.
Yeah, right. Okay.
How many of them even wanted to be in sales at all, period?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny.
San Francisco, I swear the answer is different.
I'm going there. I'm asking.
People that are like me.
First of all, I'm from Northern California. I can assure you that 95% of people in San Francisco are lying about that shit.
Hey, Chico.
I am totally going there in 2 weeks, and I'm going to ask that same question. Okay, but thinking about this, right? So we have a whole bunch of people. Let's just, Scott, we'll go down the road of exploring what if, okay? Not the model that's today, but what if we were to career path this? What if we were to create something that looks like it? Maybe a model to yours, Julie. I think that it's a model that you're describing is a model that I'm doing my best to try to implement now. I have a very new team. They're all under 9 months for the most part. So thinking about longevity there. But the question is like, how do we create an adjustment in our onboarding program or even our training curriculum to make sure that I just said training curriculum, and I feel like there's at least 3 people who are like, what the hell is that? Yeah, like you get into sales and like someone's like, okay, go be good at this. You're like, oh, okay. And they're like, dude, weren't you Sandler trained in college? We have to provide them something. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on training and onboarding, and how does that evolve? Maybe you want to start, Julie, with what your program looks like today.
Yeah, I mean, I can walk through the program, but I think one of the key things that's super important when you are onboarding a bunch of people who are new to the business world and deciding if this is a good fit is like, I mean, if you guys have seen anything I posted, like, be transparent AF. Like, I'm not here to sell you on this SDR role. I want to be super transparent with you about what you're about to walk into. And we screen the heck out of people. Like, I tried to actually sell you against the role. Like, I sit there and I'm like, this is really hard. This is probably not for you based on what I'm understanding. And I make people fight for it, and not just to use that tactic, but so they really understand. Because I think the biggest pitfall is hiring a team of people who are gonna leave within 3 to 6 months. And it happens really frequently if you're not really thoughtful on the front end. So I think that's a key component. Making sure you have a boot camp that gets everybody all of the skill sets that they need very quickly. Some mentorship and coaching in there so that people feel supported throughout that tough process is really important. I mean, I can give you the ins and outs of our program, but I think those are kind of the key things.
Sprinkle in a little surf and sales.
I have a slightly different opinion.
Let's go.
I'm not talking about Julie. No, I have the same opinion as Julie.
No,
I'm talking
about
about you. You're talking about how there's, if we're going to change the career path, and what would it be? I actually think the career path is already there. The compensation is not there. That's it. The career. Should I say that louder for everybody in the back? The career path is there. The compensation is just not there. There's already SDR1, SDR2, SDR team lead, SDR manager, SDR director. If they get to a big enough company, there's a vice president of sales development, all this kind of stuff. It's all there. And you can move up from sort of transactional accounts to SMB accounts to mid-market to big enterprise like Julie was talking about.
Right.
We just don't pay people the way that they should be paid. And that's the problem.
Are you having those conversations when you're talking to the companies that you're advising?
Oh man, yes. All the time. You know, I have gotten in trouble many times.
All right, let's go.
For advocating for my people and people who have worked for me before. There's a couple of them here, like they know that, you know, and founders don't like to hear that. Your CEO doesn't want to hear it. Your CFO doesn't want to hear it.
Your CFO definitely doesn't want to hear it.
I promise you, your board and VCs don't want to hear it. They love where you are right now because you know what? You are under their thumb. I'm telling you, like, this will not, I sound like Bernie Sanders right now, like, this will not change until the people rise up and say, no more, change. No more, right? We're not dealing with this shit anymore.
People rise up.
Well, the shitty part too is like once you get in, if you got screwed in the beginning, it's really hard to climb your way out. Like I personally experienced that. And, you know, I thought, oh yeah, I'm moving quickly, I'm making some bank. And then, you know, I remember one day getting, not at the company I'm previously at, I'll just tell you that now. But I remember one day getting a compensation statement and accidentally had the whole management team's comp on it. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Can you share like the percent differential? I'm aware of these differences, and I'm not sure everybody is, but it's.
It was like a 35 or 40% difference in pay. I had been there really long, started from the ground up, been the top seller every single month. Got asked to manage a team relatively quickly, got the team up to way over the performance attainment and numbers that we were trying to go for. And I trained a new manager who came in, who was supposed to co-manage with me, trained them up, got them to understand everything and kind of partner with me, but was certainly leading the show still. And I was making, about 40% less than that person. And I will never forget being in the room. I was sitting with my manager, who I still love and respect. And, you know, there's all different sides to the story, right? But I was sitting in the room and I just remember seeing it and like my face turned red. I was in a meeting with her when it came through and I was like, I just got a compensation statement for the whole leadership team and I need to walk away and take some time right now to process some things. I will be back, but I need you to know that.
Did you come back?
I did come back. I did come back. And, you know, then at that moment, of course, everybody wants to take me out and, you know, try to make it right. But to be honest, like sometimes the damage is done and you take the learnings that you get and you make sure that when you go to the next company, you pretend you have that bigger salary and you sell yourself, you know, on. So it's fine, but it's hard when you start low. When I started back in inside sales, I think I was making like $30K. Like that was my whole package with commission, with everything. Like that was me like feeling really cool about my life. So it's changed. I don't think we're at 250K, but I do think that, you know, it has over time. If you think about 8 years, it's definitely evolved. We need to go further, but I think the best thing that you can do is advocate for yourself and make sure that you have a manager or a leader who can help you. And they're not going to say, yes, let me get you to 250K. But if they're pushing the boundaries as best as they can, and you really believe that, like, I think that's a pretty good sign.
I'm nodding at you, Scott. I think that's right. They should. I can't tell you how many times I think in the last 5 years I've been having difficult conversations with leadership regarding compensation, just for even my team. It's like, you know, I'm sure you could pay an SDR that, but that's probably not that attractive, you know? I'm curious, actually, to thoughts from you guys on leading difficult conversations north.
Well, first of all, you just have to know that you're going to be met with a ton of resistance, and you got to expect that. I've kind of compared it to smoothing out a rock, like water over a stone. Like, is it that slow of progress trying to bring about change in the higher ups?
And just to, before you even go further, like, we're not talking about large corporations, guys. Like, this is like, even in startup land, this is, everyone's like, oh yeah, everything's great in startups really fast. And not that fast, No,
not in this particular topic.
No.
We live in a world where most of the products that people are building and they're asking us to sell, who does everybody favor? And where does all the power lie? The engineers. An engineer gets paid $250K to build some piece of shit that we have to go sell that breaks down all the time. And then we get a clawback on it because the customer didn't like it because it broke. Are you fucking kidding me? You can't pay an SDR. Look at all the heads nodding. If you don't know me or follow me, like, I just speak the truth. So this is why I get in trouble all the time, right? That's just fact, though. Come on, you've been there.
I've been there.
You've been there. Anybody ran a demo? Who's ran a demo and the product busted in the middle of the demo?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Product Person and Madam Engineer making $250K at home.
Yeah.
How come we can pay them so much to deliver shit? I'm serious. How come a salesperson who can't hit their number is on the chopping block when the product team is delayed on feature releases time and time again? They don't ever get termed.
Over again.
So the money is there, right? You can go all the way to the top. How much does the CEO make? Money.
Yeah.
Money. And I'm not talking about, like, even down to the bottom. You know how much a VP of sales makes on an exit typically? You're talking about 1% to 2%, right? So eliminate dilution and all this kind of stuff. A founder is going to make 25 to 30%. So on a $100 million sale, they made, let's call it $25 million, and a VP of sales made $1 million. You think that person's worth $24 million more than you if you're the VP of sales? If you've worked at startups long enough and you're as old as fuck like I am, you look around the room and you're like, dude, this person does not know that much more than me. And they just made $24 million more than me? You can't sprinkle some of that $24 million down onto the SDRs who got into all these accounts? Come on, man.
But it comes down to sales math too, though, right? Like, let's talk about for the sales role, you have to be able to create the math in order to make even the conversation, the argument work.
But the math is there.
Right.
The people in the ivory towers don't want to move the numbers from particular places.
Agreed.
And as long as we keep taking these roles and allowing ourselves to be stomped on, it won't change.
We're starting a revolution at the end of this. Yeah, we're all going to hit the streets and we're going to go right to the towers downtown. It's going to be really exciting.
Not there anymore.
I'm canning out torches in the back.
Gray my hair out and go a little more bald.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Where do we go from there?
I don't know. We're way off track from the talk track at this point. We're in. Yeah, well.
Got a question out there.
Well, sure. Question in the audience.
So I'm with you that the SDR has the hardest issue.
I mean, that's a really good question. I think that's
so just read out on the mic the question so that we get it captured.
So how do you change the system? How do you change the system to where SDRs aren't getting peanuts and, they're the ones that are in those higher value roles and, the monetarily, the compensation is falling the way.
I won't lie before you even answer it. Like, I've left companies because they were closed-minded to it. I have. I've completely was like, this is just not fitting to what I believe or what I even think. And I won't lie. Like, I won't lie to you right now. If you were to, the only people in this room know this. If you go to my LinkedIn, not all the companies that I've been a part of are on that LinkedIn profile. You find companies that they're just not open-minded to that concept. And you have to have the open mind. You have to have some leadership buy-in. You have to have the ability, especially in a director level or above VP level, you're trying to build something out, to have that open mind to take a risk. I think that's a good question. It's like, how do you change something that's already existing? It's like, you have to have a leadership team, in my opinion, and Scott, maybe you disagree, but you have to have a leadership team that's open to the future that's different than today.
Yeah, I think you have to align yourself with people who are willing to go into the room and have the conversation over and over and over again, not expecting an immediate result, but knowing that you're turning the corner in the right direction. And I think, you have to be, you can't be afraid to stand up for what's real and what you believe in. Like, know your freaking numbers, know your value, and be able to communicate that at any time. Like, I literally just pushed so hard for this person on our team to to get promoted to what I believe that they should be paid. And it was not an easy thing. Like, I literally had to go to the C team level to get that approved, and, you know, was told, like, you know, that this was kind of on me, and, like, you know, my reputation and so forth. And you know, I get it, and I'm confident and cool with taking that and carrying that on my shoulders. But you can't be afraid of the no's, because it's just like, you know, sales. You're going to get a million no's. You got to keep pushing, and you want to align yourself with people who have a reputation of doing that.
Can I take a shot at your question? The first thing that I would advise everybody to do is don't go work for a particular company. You need to go work for a particular leader. That is, like, potentially the best piece of advice that I could give you tonight. I think too many people fall in love with a product or fall in love with the company's name or the brand, and not the direct people that they're going to be working with. Mm-hmm. Like, if you have an opportunity to work with these two, for example, then you've made a good choice. I don't give a shit what the name of the company is. I don't care what they're selling, what industry it is. You've made a good choice, because these are people who will advocate for you. These are people who will teach you. They'll go to bat for you. They'll put their neck on the line and their job on the line for you. So that's the first thing that you should do. You should pay attention to who you're going to work for and who your direct supervisors and bosses are. Number two, we've got to do a better job at vetting companies and opportunities. Raise your hand if you've picked a dud as a company and gone to work for it and either gotten laid off or ended up quitting. Well, there's like 30% of the room that raise their hand, and the other 70 are lying. We got to do a better job, you know, and some of that comes with being taught the right questions to ask during the interview process to figure out, is this product and is this industry really viable? You know how many times, I mean, I fell victim to this, I would say 3 times out of the 6 times I've been an operator. 2 of those 3 times I was able to turn water into somewhat of a wine-like substance. The other time I washed out after 8 months, and I was like, I fucked up. Like, I made a bad choice. This is not what I expected it to be. So you got to get coaching around that, right? What's the total addressable market? How ready is the product? I went to places before and was selling before the product was even released. Can you imagine that? Straight selling hopium and a dream. I did that. I would never do that anymore if I could go back and talk to my 28-year-old self, right? And there's people in this room, I believe that you've made that mistake potentially. We got to stop making those kind of mistakes, right? So you vet the company, make sure the product works, make sure the product team delivers. Ask to talk to people who work there already. Has anybody tried to talk to salespeople at a company that you might go work at and been denied access to those people? Brian has, right? That's a massive red flag, right? What about trying to talk to users or customers to see what they think of the product? So I think if we hold ourselves to a higher standard, you know, I know it's tough. Like, if you don't have a job and you're, you know, you need money and whatnot, like, you end up, you know, lower in the bar and you take this kind of shitty job, but we've got to stay away from that, I think, a little bit.
I think there's a second element, though, too. I'm going to just take it a step further. I completely agree, right? Especially on the leadership piece. Go pick a leader that you just admire and go run. That leader's going to run through brick walls for you, so you're going to want to run through brick walls for them. It's just a really good piece of advice. I'd also say get yourself an external mentor that you just want to, like, you know, throw things past, and, like, that are smarter than you. I have a few of those myself. That's a low bar to guess, but still, like, you have to have people you can throw things past. But here's the one other thing that I think is really important. Guys, salespeople, just in general, all of you, myself included, we're all too damn loyal. Okay? What I mean by this is that we will go live and die for a brand. And at the end of the day, the only brand that matters is put your first name and a .com at the end. Okay? Your brand. That's what matters. And, like, you need to work for yourself. I proudly work for BryanElsesser.com. Okay? And BryanElsesser.com contracts out Aircall. Okay? Right now, it's my client. We have a mutual relationship. It's a famous working relationship right now. Okay? At any time, either party can end the agreement. That's how it works. But at least I can save myself the ego falter on the day that something doesn't work out. right? At least I can give myself the boost when I go, you know what? I have a better client that I can actually go after and I can put some time into. For anybody listening at home, Aircall, that's not happening. Just, I let Colin, just stop. Just kidding. All right, so.
But also the mentorship thing. Like, I think that's a huge, important thing. Who can you actually talk these numbers with? How do you know what stock options you should get or ask for? Like, I didn't know that. I still have a long way to go on that.
Yeah, I mean, we're blind sometimes into what's actually good or bad.
Did you know there's a thing called a sign-on bonus that you can ask for? I ask for a sign-on bonus on everything I do. And I'm trying to push the boundaries of what that looks.
I just want everybody to know there's a reason why they don't tell you all this shit. They don't want you to know.
But if you have a really good mentor who is like, I'm working for a new leader that I love, and he's a great leader. So it's not somebody that I've followed through company to company, but I have a really badass mentor, and he's like, listen, this is why this is good for you. Let me walk you through this without a hidden agenda, who's helping me to see how I can make my dreams and ambitions come to fruition.
The best mentor that you could find will not care if you are working with them or for them in perpetuity. They will track with you regardless of where you go and what you do, and stay in contact with you and continue to guide you.
Yes,
that's why finding the right leader more than the right company matters.
Yes,
and if you stick with that person enough, and that person has a track record of success, it's like, dude, I don't even care what company you go to or what industry you're in, what product. Like, I'm betting on Bryan. I'm betting on Julie. Because Julie's smarter than me. She's going to make some shit happen, and I want to go there. And even if I decide to go somewhere else, I'm still going to call Julie and be like, I need some advice, because I'm not getting it where I'm at. We got to be way more proactive. I love what Bryan said about, he works for Bryan.com. Like, every single person here should think of themselves as a media company. Think about that for a second. You're a media company. All the content that you can produce, you can monetize. All of it. All the LinkedIn content, any little selfie videos that you do, any influencing stuff, whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn videos or events like this, like, you're right. Like, we're way too loyal to certain companies because they will get rid of you the first moment you stop producing, or the first moment they have some sort of financial existential crisis going on. Like, you're gone, right? And we're way too loyal to them.
It's funny. I had a CEO reach out to me recently to have coffee, and we were talking, and he was sharing with me that his brand was just really getting launched off. It's actually very new, but he's like, here's the thing. He's like, I really find a void where I can't bounce things off. Like, I just feel like I want to take this individual set of people that work at this level. He wants to work with other CEOs and other VPs and like bounce ideas, but in a very niche way that's not being done. The answer is, I told him, go start it. You don't need to wait to have something get developed. I was really happy 2 years ago to be introduced to something called the New York City Sales Development Forum 3 years ago when I was at Yext. And I went to this thing for the first time, not really knowing what to expect. And I found a community of sales dev leaders that came together once a month that just wanted to like gripe over a topic and like talk about ways in which we could overcome it. And honestly, I got my sales development curriculum in that group. And I wound up going on to help lead it, but only because of how passionate I got behind it. It was like, this is freaking awesome. Why wouldn't I want to continue this? In Austin, there is definitely a meetup group out there right now that's meeting about SaaS sales in some form. Boom! There is one, okay? Revenue Collective is one. You can be an associate member. You can be a full member, depending on your deal. I'm a member, proudly. Scott, I think.
I'm not.
Whoa, okay.
I ain't paying $80 a month so I can chit-chat with other people.
I paid it up front. In fact, we'll talk about that later.
I am so anti-establishment. These people are like, who the fuck is this homeless guy?
We gave you the VIP spot to park out front, Scott. What are you talking about? But you guys can have something to go and use. And something like the Revenue Collective, I'll tell you, there's a Slack channel. In the middle of the day, I run into a business problem I don't know the answer to. I have a group of people I can go chill with. It's awesome. It's great. It's the new sales union.
Yeah, but yes. you can materialize that same thing for free if you grow your LinkedIn network. That's right. It doesn't cost you a goddamn thing except a little bit of time. So all the time you're standing in line waiting for your cocktail or a movie to start or whatever, and you're looking at stupid ass cat videos on Instagram and Facebook and shit like that.
So true.
Dude, stop doing that and start connecting with people on LinkedIn. And try to add 50 to 100 people a day. And before you know it, you have a massive network. LinkedIn maxes you out at 30,000 connections. I've been maxed out for I don't even know how many years. I've got like 43,000 followers or something like that.
Yeah, you can always have more followers.
On LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I don't need Revenue Collective. I have outscaled it. I got a huge community of people that I can reach out to. You might think I'm blowing smoke and I'm full of shit, but people who know me, like I respond to every single message that I get on LinkedIn that is meaningful and not just like a sales pitch. So every single person here, if you wanted to, if you had a question, you could send me a message on LinkedIn and I would get back to you. And I'm not charging you $80 a month to be on a Slack channel. You just reach out to people. You could reach out to Julie, you could reach out to Bryan, you could reach out to whoever. But if your network is small, like 120 connections, where's my guy with 120 connections? There he is, right there. This dude sent me a note.
It's only up from
this
there.
This is a true story. I forgot your name, man. What's your name? Nate. Nate went to the Flip the Script event last week that I was at and sent me a note, I think earlier today, and said, I saw you last week at the event. I'm going to see you tonight at this event. I'd love to connect with you. So I'm like, you know what? I like this kid. So I disconnected with somebody in Bolivia or someplace like that, right? And I added him. And then I go to his profile, and he had 120 connections. And so when I saw him tonight, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing with your life, dude? 120 connections? Like, that is no network. That is doing you no good whatsoever. Yeah. Now he's not trying. He hasn't tried yet. He's just brand new, but I'm trying to give him the shove because you don't understand the power of this particular network that doesn't cost anything. And all these people that you can reach out to, all these people who are in the same role as you or people who are in leadership roles, you got to build that network and utilize it.
I got news for you. It's like, it's not even a shove that we all need. It's a firm kick in the ass. We all need to be doing LinkedIn more, guys. It's like a thing. In fact, if you met someone tonight, so there's a guy that I follow. He owns a company called Empire Selling in New York City named Dan Swift. Really cool dude. Go follow him. Anyway, he talks about best practices in LinkedIn sales because he was a LinkedIn employee for a long time. He says any person you ever meet, you connect with them on LinkedIn. Because I'm telling you, if you do that, you speak to someone on the phone, you meet them in person, go find them on LinkedIn and connect in with them. And he's like, I'm showing you, it's gonna take off. I didn't believe him. I'm telling you, it is a true thing. It's really important to do. All right, I love this topic because I am a LinkedIn hound. But that being said, we are at 8 o'clock, so which means that I want to take questions from y'all because you've been. I tried to be a Texan for 5 seconds.
Didn't sound authentic.
No, it's really awful. I'm from New York.
Mine's not authentic. Julie's the only one who can authentically do it up here.
All right, y'all, who's got questions?
Yeah.
I think we should get Nate's last name so we can all connect with him.
Yes.
Love that idea so much.
We should all get Nate's last name so we can all connect with him.
I love that.
Nate Morrison.
Nate Morrison. Nate, where do you work? Nate just became the most famous person in Austin. All right, cool.
You already got your money's worth, dude.
Yeah, done. Questions. And hold your question. I'm going to hand out, I got you in the back, I'm going to hand the mic so that we can get it.
Okay. So I was wondering about the model of SDR to AE and whether or not you thought that that would be disrupted in itself.
Interesting. So the model and whether it be disrupted.
We're supposed to walk them through that.
Yeah, it's true. We got off topic. How does that happen? From my perspective, I think that there's still a road between the two, right? I think to Scott's point early on, even though I pretended to disagree, SDRs get into sales because they want to eventually get to a place where they're closing business, I think, in my opinion. Or they don't know what they're getting into and they find themselves into customer success or marketing or whatever. I've even had people with IT, but they get in not knowing, in essence. I think the vision that I have manipulated my brain towards is that is no longer 15 months. I would love to see that be something where I can compensate and motivate and inspire someone to hold on to that role for 3 years. and then them be like, you know what? I fulfilled this destiny, and I'm going to take everything I know. I'm going to tackle a new role and make that transition. And I think that's how my Disney world and my brain works. Yeah.
So here's how I think about it. Like, so when I say 18 months or even 2 years, I don't mean everybody sticking around that long, or me as a leader putting that as a minimum requirement. I think that in anything, the effort and the value that you provide will be noticed, and there's a huge path for people to progress to AEs even sooner than that. I think that is still a very real path, and then you may find some qualities or competencies or skill sets that somebody has that kind of shines the light quickly to put them somewhere else, and we as leaders have the responsibility to help you guys get there as quick as we identify it. So I think that path is still very much there. Here's my one caveat. There's not room for everybody. There's not. And here's why. There are only going to be a limited number of positions open. So my advice is like, put in the hard work. You're in the hardest job. 1,000% agree.
Yes.
Put in the hard work now and provide value. And it doesn't have to be traditionally. You don't have to be the number one person on the dashboard. That helps, I'm not gonna lie. But there's other seams and areas that your company is struggling with right now that you can align yourself with and lead initiatives on without anybody giving you a title. And so as soon as you can start to kind of see those seams and align yourself with them, and push hard against them and provide value, if you have a good leader, they'll recognize it and they'll help facilitate whatever path you want to go.
Amen. I'm going to take another question in the back. Hold on. Real quick before, I know some people have to go, but we're from New York, and like we bought a lot of booze, and there's burgers outside till like 9. So you guys should like hang out and get Nate's information and totally connect. Okay.
What is wrong with not having a distinction between SDR and AE? What is wrong with full sales? Why is that not a thing anymore?
Oh, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever.
Yeah, full cycles.
Nothing wrong with it. I have
it's alive and well. Full cycle alive and well.
I never have I had SDR segmentation to AE at any company that I've ever been at until the last one, when my CEO and board forced me to experiment with it. And it didn't work, and we washed it out after 2 or 3 months. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I as a, at least I fancy myself this, as somebody who's trying to push forward the field of sales, and I care deeply about giving people opportunity and helping them grow. I had like a fundamental issue with only teaching people 3/4 of the job. That was a huge problem for me. I didn't feel good about that. I also don't feel good about then how hard it becomes to move from SDR to AE, because you go to an AE interview and everybody's like, oh, but you've never closed anything before. And it's like, well, how the fuck am I supposed to close them, right? So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I'm all about end-to-end sales. To go back on your question, like, is the model going to be disrupted? Of course it's going to be disrupted. Every model that has existed as biblical canon ends up getting replaced by something else. So of course it'll be disrupted. And it's starting to happen. You got people like me who are very public about it. Colin is decently public about it, to be honest with you, the VP at Aircall. And people are starting to talk about the fact that we're having these conversations even is the beginning of the end of this particular model, in my opinion.
Yes.
So nothing wrong with it. Seek out those opportunities, in my opinion, if you're so inclined.
Okay, I love the questions. It's good. I'm coming to the back. Promise you back. Here you go.
I just wanted to go off of that. Why did you wash out that process between the two? Why?
Great question. In our particular case, the ACV was not high enough to support economically making all that make sense, right? So what happens is I add CAC, customer acquisition cost, goes way up. I also added management load and just operational complexity, right? And it just became not worth it. Now, if you're going after Disney and Nike and things like that, different beast potentially.
It's really different.
But that's why in our case that it didn't work. Our deals were like, 10 to 120K kind of typical, and then we had a couple deals that were 7-figure plus. And those deals, I created this hybrid, not really a SDR program, but like a channel program, of which there's a couple people in here, and that worked. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna like echo that. Like it's all about the ASP per your sale. How many actual opportunities could you have within a specific company? So is the model like a horrible model? Like I don't think it's a horrible model. I think it fits in sometimes. I think sometimes it doesn't. But do I think that it is going to evolve? I do think in 10 years from now, this probably will be very different. We're getting more technical sales are becoming, being able to sell in a technical way is becoming more of a skill set. This whole complete shift where it's all about what the customer wants and at their time frame. Nobody can really change your opinion on something. Like that's all changing and it's going to shake up the way that we do things.
Yeah, artificial intelligence is going to change.
I'm just saying
the first things to go will be the easiest things to be automated.
Yep.
And they're already starting to automate out outreach and first prospecting things. And the last thing to go will be the humanity of these actual conversations where you're able to read the room and understand tone and context and all this kind of stuff. And, maybe I watch too many sci-fi movies, but like that world is coming.
Join us next time at Burgers, Beer, and B2B Sales in Austin when we describe artificial intelligence and its impact for the future.
Find your seam. Find the problem that your business has. Like, figure that out. Like, don't just follow the steps that you're supposed to follow as, anyone in any role. Like, look for those opportunities and align yourself with them, and then you'll always be relevant.
Scott, I think I get like 6 or 7 a day companies reaching out to me going, I can use my AI tool to do that. And honestly, and if you sell it in here, you're welcome to try to pitch me. But the thing is that I firmly believe that at this moment in time, AI isn't there yet. And yet in 6 years, it's probably going to be, and that's going to be the next topic of this whole thing. All right, buddy, you're up.
My turn. Okay, question. Equity or cash? I've been at a lot of startups and I'm not really sure. I've never taken equity, but
there's no simple answer to that. I need to know so much about you and your life and your financial situation. Seriously.
In the company.
If you're talking, if you're asking me right now where I'm at in my life, I'm strongly considering equity. But if I'm talking to somebody who's just getting started in their career, fuck equity. You should be all about cash.
I'm considering both. Just for anyone who.
I think honestly, it
how
matters.
How many people
on the
actually
company.
understand equity? Raise your hand if you actually understand options and equity in this room. You 100%. That's a half. There's a half. There's one person, 2 people. That's another half. I got 2 people out of the 40 in here. Come on.
The third session in B2B
I'm happy
sales.
to talk to you offline if you want, but equity is a 7 to 10 year game, okay? And you're getting far less than you probably think that you are if you actually want to make money, okay? However many options you have, multiply it by 10. Because if that share price gets to $10, you've crushed it, okay? Seriously, you know how many companies don't ever get to that price on an acquisition? I just had an acquisition and the share price was $7.83, and I was fucking thrilled. Thrilled. I also had a lot of shares. But everybody thinks I'm gonna have $100 share price, and so I'm gonna be a millionaire. No, you're not. You ain't making shit if you're an AE on an exit. It's not happening. And people don't educate you with that. They lie to you to hook you in. So I need to know a lot more to really answer your question. But if you're young and more junior in your career, optimize for cash, not for equity. If you're older and cash is not as important, you might want to optimize for equity. But to Julie's point, you optimize for both if you can.
All right, I reserve the right to the last question. You all have questions, and it's good. Come up and see us afterwards. We're chilling. We're here. I have a bottle of tequila.
Yeah. For now.
Right, for now. All right, last question. Blog, podcast, book, something you want to leave these people with is hey, you should go follow this or go check this out because it's going to impact your career. Scott, want to lead it?
Apparently, I'm not allowed.
You should totally take a look at Addicted to the Process.
Or the Surf and Sales podcast, which I'm not allowed to talk about. Book. Let me see. I, shockingly to no one probably at this point, I don't like reading business books and sales books. I like reading books about people who have overcome all sorts of things. So the sort of like more inspirational kind of things, like biographies and people who have been through hell and back and made it out the other side. I like reading those and then applying those to what's going on in my business and my sales and my management style and all that kind of stuff. Also, if you're not somebody who loves to read, it's an easy entry point. Just like pick a topic you're really passionate about. Like I read this book called The Captain Class, for example. Has nothing to do with business, has nothing to do with sales. It's all about sports. It's all about how all the greatest dynasties in sports were led by a captain who was not the best player on the team. Those kind of things are the things that I like to read and draw inspiration from more than like, you know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, I think inspiration is a big one. So find something, whatever it is, that like a podcast, something you can listen to in the morning that like gets you motivated and inspired. I think that's a big help. Surf and Sales podcast. It really is very good. He can't toot his own horn, but he got me listening to it, and I really found a lot of value there. Something that actually just hit my inbox yesterday that is really fascinating to me is Gallup came out with their new results on employee engagement, and it's actually really shocking. So this is something that one of my leaders made me follow. They do the state of the American or global workplace, and they walk through like real data on how engaged employees are and why all of these problems are sort of happening. And it's fascinating. The last one was released, I think, in 2016. And so we're up for a new one. You're already seeing some articles trickle in. And yesterday they released a really great one about employee engagement. And, summary, read it. It's cool. And there's more stuff to come. But summary is like, leaders realize they actually have to give a shit now, and it's not about the cool ping pong table and the snacks, which are helpful, but it's more about like actually investing in people and making changes that are going to impact their life in the long run. And I was really inspired by that.
Love it. I got two. It's okay. Yeah. No, it's okay.
Surf and Sales. It really is good, especially if you're
Julie.
trying to pick up on,
It is pretty good.
This has been brought to you by Surf and Sales.
If you record calls at your company or have Gong, love that tool, freaking get the app and play it on the way down and start listening to all of the lingo and what's happening. I think that's just honestly as good as a podcast.
Yeah. So extreme ownership. I think just in nature, we like to point fingers. It's just who we are as people. It's like, no, it's not my fault. I work so hard. I love the book Extreme Ownership because it taught me a ton about like, just be like, no, dude, you own that. Go do it. So if you haven't read it yet, you should really check it out. It's written by a couple of Navy SEALs, and they're pretty cool dudes. And they also have a podcast that you should go check out. Jocko Willnick, he's pretty awesome. And then the other one is Sea Stories by William McRaven, which is not a business book. It's just a book about a crazy Navy SEAL that had an incredible career. And he talks about some really intense things that he had to overcome. And I love the overcome story. I'm with you, Scott. I think that's just like powerful, inspires the hell out of me. So you should totally check those two out. Okay, so a lot of hungry faces, a lot of people that are thirsty. How about a round of applause for these two? Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Go have a burger. Come up and see us. Thank you, everybody.